Can you hear us, Bill?
Yeah.
Yep. So, if you guys are ready, let's start it. We are live. I think we're live. Yeah, we are. So, guys, we're here with the legend, Bill Papas from Unruggable, someone that we were able to meet last time in Abu Dhabi, as we were saying before getting live. Those guys are true builders. It's not their first run, their first try. They understood that everything is a process here in Solana, and you need to keep shipping and keep evolving all the time. Metas change, what the network is looking for, the demands change, and you always need to pivot. And there's no one better to share a little bit of what happened in the last 2 months than Bill. Amazing that someone that we have great admiration. So if you could share a little bit of your story, Bill, for the English speaking community. We are together here for the garage for the next 3 weeks. People are in this house with us, like 30 plus builders, doing everything they can to do the best they can to Coliseum. So please, guys, Bill Papas.
Hi guys, thank you for. Oh, okay. I will give it a go with the audio. Yeah, it seems to clear up. Lovely. So yeah, thank you for having me on. Thank you for taking the time to listen to me speak. I'll do a quick intro of myself and then we'll dive into Unruggable and things. So my background is I'm a mechanical engineer by trade, and subsequently I did my PhD in computational fluid dynamics. So that was a lot of Fortran 77, Bash, MATLAB, things like that. I finished the PhD and then I got into crypto. So during the PhD, I was doing some quant gambling. So I was working for syndicates doing lines. Then I found crypto and I realized that crypto is a better opportunity, I think. So I ended up in crypto. So this is probably around 5 years ago, if I'm not wrong. Just after COVID, when things shut down. Found Solana, tried out, all the change, read the white papers, and it was pretty clear that Solana was going to be good. So that was kind of my first break in crypto, which I think nearly everyone has a break that converts them. So that's something that turns out well for you. It might be a grant, it might be a good trade, whatever it is, right? Now, after that, I kind of got building, so porting over the high performance or the scientific programming and the stack, that was hard for me, right? So this is pre-chat GPT and AI, before it was at least competent. So I had to go from like Fortran and scientific computing to front ends, what web3.js is, what a wallet connector is. And it's very different. Like if you're a front end dev back in the day, like you've had so many files and it's so different than what I was doing before. So I kind of picked up the skills. One of the really good things with Solana was a CLI, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with. And then CLI, we had the NFT craze. So I started running bots for NFTs. I was freelance contract work, image metadata and so forth. So that kind of got my developer skills up there, right? A lot of the Metaplex and token accounts, writing smart contracts for it, staking, etc. The good old days. And then FTX, which is the reason behind Unruggable, right? And my condolences to anyone that got caught with that. With me, I just got greedy, right? So FTX was doing 10% on staking. On chain, it was 6%. So Bill went, well, 4%, it's worth it. It was not worth it. And the reason behind that was at that point, there was no way to store Solana self-custody wise that you wouldn't have a problem. And with that, I mean, back in the day, Ledger didn't even have token support, so you couldn't see any SPL tokens. We had Solid, and then Phantom kind of came out. So after FTX, I was like, look, we are probably the number one chain. Like, if you look at it over the last 4 or 5 years, it's the only chain that has growth. You can maybe throw in Hyperliquid there, but it seems the future is very much aligning around internal capital markets, right? And not just like as a crypto green pill, I've drunk the Kool-Aid, but more of a, back in the day, if you wanted to trade, You'd have to pay, you would have to sign up, KYC. Getting good data was hard, you had to pay for it. Now, you make a wallet, you download the CLI, Jupiter, and you can trade pretty much any asset you want. And you can get leverage with no KYC, no upfront cost. It's better in it 24/7. You don't have to deal with people. If you've dealt with banks, you know what I'm talking about. So seeing that and being right, Solana's clearly going to win. At least that seems to be the case, right? We're getting the institutional adoption. We've survived 2 bear markets, I want to say tentatively. So it's clear like we're growing as an ecosystem, the price is there, etc. And yet you look at the hardware wallets and what do you have? They do everything. And the biggest chain is an afterthought. Again, it's an afterthought because it's so different. It's Solana's Rust, it's all of these different, the data models, etc. But because of that difference, they can't support it well. And to me, that seemed to be like a really big gap in the market, right? You talk to anyone who uses Solana for a while, you ask them about Ledger or hardware wallets, the response is I either don't have one or I hate them. And to me, that's like a clear gap in the market. Again, it's a difficult gap to go after, right? It's hardware, you're going up against Ledger, Trezor, people that have 5-6 years of head start. But on the other hand, you have modern manufacturing, you have 3D printing that allows for prototyping, you have AI. So things that back in the day would require a team of 10 to 15 engineers across different specialties. Now, if you have a competent enough engineer and enough credits, well, you know, I never wrote Rust in my PhD. I did engineering, but I didn't do electronics. Self-taught in the last 2 years from AI. Again, you need the capacity or at least have the experience so you know how to learn, but it's definitely doable and AI massively enables you. So that was kind of the thought process behind Unruggable. We've kind of validated the idea, so I'll talk about the Colosseum hackathons. Any questions? Yeah, any questions on Colosseum or anything else just after that intro?
No, I think it was an amazing intro. Something that maybe people, I think it's really hard to pivot because if you're developing something, it's because you believe it, usually. But at some point, you need to change. Like, and you guys been there. Like, for you, like, what were the signals? Like, how did you guys were able to spot like, okay, we need to do something different. This is good, but we need to do better, or we need to do different. What was the signal for you guys?
So I'll run through like the 3 pivots we've gone through and what informed each one. So just some background, we entered 4 Colosseum hackathons, right? From the first one to the most recent one. And I'm kind of tempted to enter this one as well, but just like a side. Anyways, yeah. So the first one, right, was super simple. It was like, right, how do we do the simplest self-custody for Solana? USB-C flash drive, Tails OS, which is a operating system that you boot from the flash drive, Solana CLI, right? And we got this MVP'd and it worked. And then you look at it as a business, not as a hackathon project, because as a hackathon project, it was great. As a business, though, it wasn't mobile. So you've lost Android, iOS, all your mobile market, right? Forget mobile. The MacBooks, it doesn't work on MacBook. The new M processors, and I'm sure if you look around, all of you are with MacBooks probably. The new M processors lock down the bootloader, so you can't boot Tails OS. So we're left with what? Windows and Linux. For Solana, that nearly everyone uses Apple stuff. The business is dead, right? The idea, not so much, but that iteration of it has no future. It's that simple. Again, I did the hackathon. I spent a month. This was with bad AI. This was a lot of bash. We got hardware. We had a good demo video. And then I see them pick people that I disagreed with. And I was like, what the fuck, guys? Like, I should have won. And then you look at it with that viewpoint I gave you as a business, and you're like, okay, I see it. It's not a hackathon for who's going to write the nicest open source project or thingy. It is a startup competition. And I think in hindsight, that is the best advice I can give you. So that was the first iteration, and that was just driven due to like a bird's eye view. Like honorable mention was, okay, the idea is good, but if you're not winning, something's maybe wrong, plus the market, done. Talk to Adam, who does marketing and like my business partner, and we think, okay, look, it's a developer thing. We got 400 people in one day when we had an outage on the RPC because we had Gito. So we know there's something there in like differentiating from the existing wallet, right? Or at least there's an area to go in there. And what did that mean after the iteration? We need cross-platform and we need a GUI or a interface that someone could use, right? Your dad or your sister or your brother is never going to open up the CLI in the terminal and use this like dev hackerish wallet, right? So we looked at it and went, okay, maybe not just hardware, maybe we do some cryptography. So we do a nice cross-platform app written in Go. Shamir secret sharing, multi-party compute and distributed key generation. We got a nice architecture, so you've got your laptop, you've got your phone, and then you've got our hardware wallet. Okay, we wrote the code, the EKG worked, some of the most challenging coding I've ever done, like writing, it's a nightmare, right? And I had a PhD and it's still fucking mind-breaking, cryptography. So we finish the thing and we look at it, we go down to London. So this is when I got involved with Superteam, because I was like, right, if we're going to see this work, we've got to try it with people. Like, and that is something I would suggest. If you're at these events and you have something that can be tried, even if it's an MVP, go show it to people and just see, do they understand it? Do they ask you questions? Do you have to explain more or not? But anyway, so we go down and I've got my laptop, my phone, my Seeker, the MacBook and the hardware wallet. Talk to the Superteam guys and they get the idea, hardware wallet for Solana. The execution though, yet again, bad, right? You're asking people to connect a laptop, a phone and a hardware wallet, have them sync and generate a key. And then you get me, and the hardware wallet doesn't even have a screen. So you've got to plug in and power. So as an idea, okay, good, but nowhere near a business, right? And we realized that, like, as a non-dev, you look and go, oh, he's just an NPC or SSH or whatever it is, right? As a developer, I'm like, guys, I've spent a month and a half on this really hard technical problem. This is great. The market doesn't care though, or your average user doesn't care. And that is something it took me a while to get used to, like adjusting that something really hard technical doesn't always translate to success. So you can see from that kind of breakdown why, in hindsight, that was kind of dead on arrival. Same problem, submit, honorable mention, idea's good, execution's not there. And you can see that from the demos. So the 3-minute demo, as much as I hate the 3-minute thing, it does force you, because if you can't explain in 3 minutes, then you don't really have a business, unless you're doing some really niche, like hard tech thing. Anyways, so that was like the second pivot. And then we were at this point a year ago, roughly, around the same time, in London with nothing really working, an idea that we'd validated talking to people and knew there was demand for, but no good way to execute. So that was the third pivot and the final one. So we went with a microcontroller architecture, ESP32 for anyone who does that stuff, a full stack Rust approach, so Rust from the firmware all the way to the software and the interface. And this was enabled by looking at what OR did. So OR was one of the previous champions, and their website, which was really performant and responsive, that was written in Dioxys, which is a Rust framework. And we kind of also, when we talked with Adam, we went at it backwards. So we went, for a Solana-only hardware wallet to succeed, what does it need to hit? Like, what are the requirements? And for Solana, I'll tell you now, like, if you're doing apps, cross-platform, you can't just be on one ecosystem. It has to be Android, iOS, and Seeker, preferably, right? If you're doing desktop, again, not most people do desktop, so we'll leave that aside. So we need the cross-platform aspect. We also needed to be easier and better than Ledger, as in significantly better. There's a theory that for your product to win, it has to be at least 4 times better than your competitor, right? So again, you can kind of look at this with the aggregator wars or the pool wars and how we're kind of hitting the limit on the aggregators where it's a race to zero. But each time they're getting better and better. And in general, the rule applies. So it's a good way to look at your product. If you're building in a crowded niche and you're trying to compete, can you differentiate 4 times better and show that, like, quantifiably? Is that time to do something? Is that UI, UX, whatever it is? So, and then the last one was it has to be aesthetic, right? It has to look good and it has to feel sturdy. So going from there, that informed the current approach, right? You want something that's metal, cross-platform app, it has to look good. And we put together that first MVP or demo in probably 12 days, right? So that Colosseum entry was over 12 days. We then went for demo day. So I'm sure you guys in Brazil will have a demo day or a pitch roast or something like that. And that was the first event where we showed or demoed it and people were nodding their heads. So on the other ones, you heard what I said. We'd show it, how does on this one, there was no how does this work or what does it do? It was just, okay, yeah, that makes sense. So that was the first time we'd actually seen that, like, okay, this makes sense to people and this is worth pursuing. So those were the pivots, right? And once we had that kind of like, okay, this might work, then it was like, right, let's flesh it out. So on that one, we got a 3rd place, right? So again, very bare bones app. All it could do was send, receive, and show the balances from a hardware. But it was enough to place. And that was validation. So not only did we have the in-person thing with people being like, yeah, I get this, in a completely different reaction, but Colosseum also went, yeah, this is good enough for a place now. So that was like, okay, right, hit the ground running. And then, I don't know how useful this bit is, but the hard part, or at least the hardest part, is going from a prototype to something that's production ready and going and shipping it. That going from an MVP to a finished product that you can actually give and sell to people and charge, especially in hardware, is, it's logistics, it's so many things. If you're doing web or like smart contracts or apps, it's nothing to worry about, right? Your MVP is something that should be out there and then you can iterate on it. And as long as you communicate well, you should be okay doing that. Yeah, those are the pivots. I think, any questions, anything more, anything specific, go for it.
Okay, hey Bill, thank you so much for this overview. Can you hear me all right? Let me turn my face. Okay, now you can also see me. So awesome. We chatted way back in Abu Dhabi. Great conversation, as Shima said. And I didn't know about your story. I didn't know about that. The pivots, actually, you guys got really good, valuable feedback from Colosseum through the placements and all that. How would you advise people here? Because 4 hackathons, that's 2 years on the run. And, it's a big investment in terms of time and in terms of money as well. People, I don't think they know here, but you got your own fab lab, right? In the outside of London. And how would you go about like gradually investing more money and more time? And do you think you only did that because you believed in the ecosystem? There was this feedback from Colosseum. How would you advise someone starting out now? How can they manage their time and money?
So it's 2 different questions, right? I have a slightly different opinion of startups or how to run them. So I grew up in a fish and chip shop, so like a small business, and then I lived through Greece in the financial crisis. So my number 1 rule is if the bank balance hits 0, it's game over, right? And that is no one will run your startup like you do, right? And that means you have to be on top of your budgeting. You have to know your runway. As long as you can, like, assuming you are happy with your idea and what you're building, the name of the game is staying alive, right? So like we're raising and I have VCs talking to me about, and I'm like, I've survived longer than most VCs, right? I've been here 5 years. I make my living from it full time for 5 years. I've done well. I've seen VCs make a lot of money. I've also seen them go bust. A really good example is Joe McCann from like Asymmetric, up millions of dollars down to 0. So assuming that you are okay with what you're building and you're committed to that, then it's going down to running it like a business, right? Before you get funding and things. And even after funding, because I've seen this from people that we meet and talk about, and when I hear about runways and how much companies are burning, you look at it and go, okay, you're costing yourself potential time and shots on target because you're being inefficient with your money or your time. So my first thing is like, you're not yet a big protocol. You're not a start. You are a small business effectively run by yourself. I would, again, tying your own well-being to how the business does is stressful, right? So if you are living month to month based on like what the business is doing, stressful. Try and find investment or validate the idea. Again, it's very different than what you'll hear, like people go and grow, throw money at things, chase things. My opinion is you want, again, depends on the product, right? If you are the flavor of the month, and this is like, I want to get this bag in the next month, we need to be first. Yes, throw money at it. But if you're building a long-term thing, then it's a survival game. Again, what I will say is when you have to allocate resources, you have to. So for us, when we went to market, again, some context. So with hardware, if you've seen everything on Solana so far, has launched with some kind of financial incentive. Solana Mobile had Bonk, right? So they sold out thanks to Bonk. And the Sequence Season 2 has that follow-on effect of, oh, there will be an airdrop. So you're not buying it because you want the product or the phone. You're buying it because you want the financial reward. Play Solana did a token. Great. They sold out the 10,000 units. I doubt they've sold a unit since. Again, I love the hardware. I love the attempts. I just think it's a unsustainable way to run a business because you move all your payday at the front and then you have to manage community, tokens, financials, hardware. We had Pulse, again, the UK one, doing like a fitness wearable, same playbook, right? And all these companies are basically dead, like token gone down, gone. So again, the playbook's there. If you want to go down that way, it could work. If you're skilled enough, you can run it lean, you can make the numbers work. It's an option. For us, it was the other way, because I think hardware for us is a long-term game. It's a marathon. And we will not win by having, oh, great, we sold 5,000 units and made $1.5 million, and now the business is dead because everyone hates us and I can't go to an event. You get me? So, yeah, balance. Can you repeat the question as well? Just because I go on tangents and I forget, as Arthur knows.
No, I think you tackled it pretty well, actually. It was mostly just how would you advise founders on how to invest their time and money? And that's how you kind of already answered that, right? If you're bidding for long term and all that, you can go ahead. Go for it.
The counterpoint I would add is, so Adam says this to me, you need to identify what is the most mission critical thing for the company. And that is your priority. And the other litmus test is, can you run the company with just the founders? As in, with us, with no employees, if it's just me and Adam, we can deliver the finished product. You need to like evaluate that for yourself. So like for me at the moment, the number one priority looking at it is probably finishing the app, right? The redesign. So you rank your priorities and you have to make sure it's number one. If you are seeing that your time is going on things that are not worth it, you either need to delegate or get rid of it or automate it. So one thing I'll suggest, if you're doing a product that you have customers coming in, find an intern on Twitter. Number one thing, find someone to be in the Discord that you don't have to give them a massive amount of trust or control, but they just have to be able, like when someone comes in, to answer a question, etc. What else? Legal and incorporation. This is something people won't tell you about. It's all about ship, do this. Legal is a fucking ball ache. All the accounting is super annoying, but you need to get those bases covered. So work out a system or how you budget and make sure you have visibility. So the way we do it, we have one big account and then we have a spending account. And that spending account is what the budget is run off. So we know how much is in there, everything goes through that, and then you have your piggy pot. That really helps with being on top of things. Accounting as well, it's a super clean flow. If you do not take care of these in time, they're like bad code. They grow, and then you can't manage them, and it's a shit show. So yeah, just tick your boxes beforehand, or like make sure you incorporate, make sure you, again, you're early, so you're not going to have any regulation issues. But if you do think this is going to grow, that is something you need to be aware of, or at least have an answer for when they interview or when you're raising, how you deal with it. Yeah.
Hey, what's up, bro?
Yo, yo.
Nice to see you again. We know that every journey is so unique. You guys have been uh, basically one of the unique journeys on the Colosseum. So you guys applied 4 times for placements, and I know that each one of those you had a different experience doing it. And right now in this class here, there is a lot of people that is building their first try.
I can't hear you, Arthur. No audio. Are you muted? On the stream thing, if you see it shows you muted.
Hey.
Ah, there we go.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
You hear me?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
thank you. Okay.
Did you heard anything that I
First
said?
startup.
Have you heard something that I said before?
So it was a lot of people at the event today are building the first
Oh,
attempt or entering, and then it just cut.
Sure.
Go for it.
No, my question was resuming to like, if you would be starting today, what would be like your approach to find a problem, like create a business around it? Because as we said, and we as well as founders saw it happening. So Colosseum is a startup competition, not a hackathon. They are like, they're not gonna be opening your code at first. Mostly they probably don't want to open it. They basically want to see the business model, everything. So I was like, from all these experiences, what you could like share with those new founders, like you should be starting today.
Okay. There are two things I would look at. One is, how do I get to $1 million in revenue, and how quickly can I do that? That is the first question. And then the second one is, if you are doing something non-novel, so something that exists and competing, why are you better? So we had Archer in our cohort with Arthur. So Archer are doing again, correct me, they're doing effectively spot markets, like trying to make a really efficient central limit order book to allow for really good trading. So on that case, there is no question of how do you get to $1 million revenue. We know that swap aggregators and offering that makes money and it prints revenue. But for it to do that, it needs to be better than every competitor. So for them, at least I guess, or at least from what I can know, the question for Colosseum was, how are you guys better? Explain to me why you're better and how you're going to win, right? So if you're doing an existing vertical and you kind of already have the product and you know there's a market fit, like perps, right? Perps are the most no-brainer thing. Everyone, like there are 3 or 4 protocols on Solana trying to do perps. No one's yet won. For someone to win though, or to enter, every one of us could enter a perps project. The criteria is not going to be the code, or it's going to be, why are you going to win? As in, does Bill a professional Wall Street trader and has an edge because he knows something, or is he just a better engineer? Or you have to give them a reason why you're going to win, right? And that's when you have the path to revenue. On the flip side, if you don't have the path to revenue, the question then is, how do I make this niche big enough? What is a total addressable market, right? Or is this something novel that has some kind of revenue mechanism that can then grow? So if you look at Or, for example, Or didn't exist, right? It was some kind of mix. And the thing was, okay, this is completely novel. If people use it, it will make revenue. Here are the numbers. And then it was like, okay, are you actually skilled enough to build this? Okay, you're an ex-Uber, Uber engineer, really cracked cross dev. Great. Worth taking the bet. Oh, and you actually launched it and it has traction. yeah, he's grand champion. Look at us, for example. So we went to market at that point. Again, this is all Adam, right? I didn't even want to enter that Coliseum. It was like, they're not going to pick us on the fourth entry. But Adam was like, no, Bill, we're going to go to market right after we submit. So the only thing the judges see when they're judging is us, right? Again, it worked out because it also could have flopped, right? We could have not sold units. We could have not got retweeted. And then you're going, great, we've just killed all the potential traction. So it's a balancing act. But yeah, the core criteria is 1 million revenue. Like they'll ask you 100 mil from VCs. For me, it's 1 mil. So again, I'm just trying.
I think you addressed something, Bill, that 2 times. That I think it's the $1 million decision. The balance between, for an example, playing safe, and at some point you need to take some risks, right? Like as you guys did, like you try to play safe, but at some point you will need to make a decision. Like you said, okay, we could have been grand winners, or just a flop, and nobody would ever speak of you guys again. And I think we need to have this balance. A lot of times you said, like, this is not a hackathon like a usual hackathon. It's a startup competition. And what we see, what we're used to see, is that startups, they burn their money, like their pre-seed money to get users. And then they go for more money, and they burn the money again to keep those numbers, to keep those users. And I think Coliseum has a different vision. So you cannot do that. Like if you spend all your money trying to get some users, like in the first few months, this will probably kill you. So this balance is quite important, unless you desperately need it.
Yes,
it's
no. Like,
so
it
share
depends on your product, right?
Yeah.
Like, so think of it like this: I had a really interesting conversation with Clay from Coliseum, and he was telling me about Stripe. And he said to me, at Stripe, they knew if the merchant in the first 2 weeks after receiving their hardware plugs it in and does at least $20 of volume within those 2 weeks, they will make money on that customer. Like,
Perfect.
Think of how simple that is as a metric, but also how clean it is. And I go back to it. You need to know what your customer's doing and how you're going to monetize. Again, the perpetual burn is something you kind of have to balance, right? With us, it is how are you incentivizing people? Because if you're doing an airdrop or if you're just giving out money for free, it might not work. But there are other ways. So like you can spend money on merch at events, and then you have some kind of penetration on events. You've got to be strategic with it. And I think with what you said, you've got to burn the money, and ideally you set yourself up to be in a position with the minimal downside. So what you don't want to do is burn money without actionable outcomes. With us, like when we went to market, we were like, right, we're going to burn money on marketing. We need to get these videos done. We need to get all of this finished. When we go to market, we are risking our marketing budget, and we will either end up selling units and validating the idea, which is worth the clarity of, right, this idea will work, or we won't do enough numbers, we'll make less on the marketing budget, and that's our feedback. The idea won't work, there's not enough demand, people won't pay for it, shut the project down. Being super realistic and not emotionally attached to it is my best advice. Again, this is coming after, you heard me, 2 pivots. Was there a little bit of emotional attachment to the project? Yes. And that's probably what kept the pivots going. But at that point, we didn't have customer orders. We hadn't taken people's money. We weren't selling a product. We were just iterating. So look at where you are, what your product does, and what works for you. And for Coliseum with AI, my opinion is, especially if you're doing software, try and get something live for people to try after you submit, maybe a week after you submit. Try and get some attention. Try and validate the idea or not. Either it'll work and you'll find people that are like, yes, okay, this has potential, and you'll see traction, or you'll just be shouting at the forest, and that's your feedback. Which sounds brutal, but that's life.
All right. Can you hear me?
This is good. So I have a question in terms of when you get to this stage and already have some type of prototype and you start having these calls, not only with potential clients, but also with investors and judges, you get the most varied advices, right? And I think the tendency, like the easiest thing to do is just to say yes to everything and try to implement as many as possible. But there's also the very important part of like keeping to your plan and like trusting your thesis and not deviating too much. So like, how do you balance not only things that you want to implement as soon as possible with things that are like nice to have, and also how do you balance investor and judges and like accelerator kind of approaches to like clients, because these differ a lot as well.
So my thing here is you have to qualify the opinions that you take on, right? Opinions cost nothing, but you're the one that has to deal with them. So we've been raising. I've never raised before. And I'd never dealt with VCs. Like I always thought VCs were the devil. So we asked about feedback. So we've had like 30 or 40 different VC calls, and each one of them has their own opinion on things. And yet you look at some of these VCs and they don't have a single winner in their portfolio. Right? They've been doing it for 5-6 years. You go through and it's just failed. Why would I listen to them? Right? That's the first thing. Just because someone has ended up in a certain position doesn't mean that they know what they're talking about. Okay? And I'm sure everyone's encountered this in their daily life. The teacher that didn't know the subject, the person that worked at the government that was clueless, the VC that had no idea about investment, etc. Again, it might sound conceited, but you've got to qualify ideas. So on the VC side, that's what I would say. On the other ones, when you have a qualified opinion, you take it on board. So it's something that you should factor in. You should think about it yourself. And then hopefully, is it a technical opinion, right? Maybe talk to people that are technical. So for me, if I get something technical, I might go talk to Arthur and then ask him, oh, can we talk to the Blue Shift guys? I just want to hop on a call for half an hour and just talk. If you have a brief, it works. Like we had a call with Hard Hat about hardware, right? Separate, like relatively unrelated, but at some point you need to find someone who's not giving you the advice, who can act as a barometer. So for us, like I've gone through the design with the Tropic chip engineers, so the people that actually make the secure elements, a CEO of Engrave, who's another hardware wallet company, and then hardware engineers from other startups that now work in crypto and are probably better developers than me. And what I'm trying to do there is explain what I've done, show them it, and get feedback from them, because these are people that might be better than me at certain aspects, right? So that's a different kind of feedback or advice that you take on board. So it's like you want to have someone who's not a mentor, but someone that's more skilled at a niche thing than you. So if I want something to do with thermodynamics or aerodynamics and I need to discuss it, I'll go see my old supervisor, right? He's not going to help me with the crypto side or wherever I want with the business side, but he can help me solve that specific challenge. You want to do a marketing problem? We ran into Vibu at like the Colosseum offices. You talk to him. Oh, dude, we're stuck against this. People love giving you their opinions, and that applies everywhere, right? Arthur knows. Like, I would sit at the office and people would come in, ask me a question, I won't work. I'll sit there and just chat with you because you can't have those conversations in your daily life. Like, your friendship group from school probably can't hold a conversation on like DeFi and multi-sig exploits or like low-level binary or reverse engineering. I can with Arthur, or Adam can't talk about marketing with his girlfriend who works, at a nail shop or whatever. But he can talk about marketing at Colosseum with people that worked at these billion-dollar startups and ran the marketing departments, right? And that's where your network comes in handy, where you get unbiased opinion from people that are just interested, right? It's passion projects. So that was VC, judges. Again, judges, you've got to qualify them. Like, dude, we did demo day in London. 2 out of the 4 judges worked at crypto companies I'd never heard of. And I've done crypto for 5 years, right? Okay. Or like you go to some events and speakers, you're like, why are you talking? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
That's true.
It is what it is. Like, part of me also, like, when people ask me to come on, I feel not pretentious, but I'm like, okay, we are also just a startup. We still don't have true product market fit. And I'm sitting here talking to you guys that some of you might be more qualified than me, or might end up doing a lot better than I do, right? So you could argue I shouldn't be speaking either. So again, if you've done your analysis and you can stand on what you've identified and you have confidence in it, you take everything with a pinch of salt and you evaluate it internally within your team. That's the best I can say.
Oh, amazing.
And the
amazing.
last one is when you find people that are just assholes, so like they're just grating, they have no social skills, and they tell you how things are, listen to those people. It's not nice, but like we had Alex from Bonk Advisory. I remember I showed him the go one, right? The second pivot. So, and he just looked at me and just went, Bill, this isn't good enough, and just walked away. Yeah. Works though.
Yeah, but we have a friend that always tells us that you need to have at least one bad talk per day, like one hard talk per day. If you're not having at least one hard talk per day, you're probably not gonna make it. Like if you only have like praises and like people saying you're amazing, probably not gonna make it. Do you have time for one last question?
Oh, dude, I'll stay on as long as you guys want.
Yeah.
Ask anything. Yeah.
Anyone more here? We have Gabs from Soulflare here with us. He has a question. How's it going, man?
My question is going to be more for the builders as well. I wanted to ask, what is a moment during the hackathons that you participated where you almost like gave up and you think like most of them is going to go through, and what did you do to push through this?
I think the worst moment we had was probably before we came third in infrastructure, so like a year ago, when we were sitting in London and we were like, shit, we don't really have anything. Hackathons, again, are good, so are deadlines, because they're forcing functions, right? There is zero value. Like, you've started your hackathon, you get to like 5-6 days before, and you're like, I'm not going to submit. Like, what are you doing? It's like, I had people I went to uni with, they do the 3-year degree, they do 2 years, and they drop out in the last year. Like, what are you doing, dude? Like, unless it's some massive opportunity, you've already sunk the time in. Like, the deadlines are good because they will force you to get over the hump. It doesn't matter if you get doubts on it. Put it out there and get the feedback. Again, it will condition you emotionally, right? And psychologically. So a lot of people have a fear of losing or hearing bad things, right? I got over my fear of that when I was gambling, right? When I was running numbers. I was doing the comps and things. I lost 25 in a row. At some point, you just shrug your shoulders and go, right, just get up and keep on going. So learning to hear no's, or, you know, you put your best in and they turn it down, is good. But you've got to submit. Like, that is, again, if you don't have the accountability, how are you going to run a business, right? If you said, I'm going to submit this hackathon for better or worse by this date, and I know what I need to do, and you can't deliver, what makes you think that on your next endeavor, when you get money, you will be responsible with it and actually execute, right? It's extremely hard to get up every day and do the same thing. And as you see traction, it will get better. And the worst thing is with a hackathon, again, I know, Carlos, you get no feedback. That's the real killer for most people. And I think that's where you're most likely to give up, right? Again, during the build thing, if you're here, you're talking with people, you might have events. It might be you heard me. It might be your friend over there saying, come on, let's get this done. We can, like, your partner or your co-founder can push you through. The hard part is also afterwards, where you believe in your idea, but you've got no feedback. You've got no traction. You've got now no funding. And the hackathon, and this like, ooh, let's get the hackathon done, has gone. And that's where, if you have done your planning correctly on the idea, you should be mentally strong enough to be like, okay, well, there are 2,000 projects and they can only pick 15. But no, 10. Right? Run the numbers. You might be in like the top 100, and that's still amazing, but you miss out because it's only the first 25 get named. So you could be number 30 and you never know. Like, we met a really nice guy, and like, he had a goat project who was an honorable mention in the last one, Ops on Chain, right? So they were doing some DAO stuff. And Adam met him, like, we were at Cornell's Jet House and he got talking. Then he introduced me. He was like, Bill, you need to talk to this guy. The product's good. I'm happy if anyone wants to like to ask me about what they're doing, I will give you feedback straight up. Like, yeah. And we talked to him, and he was like, bro, I got an honorable mention. I should have won, and I don't know if I should keep on doing it. The counterpoint is, if you've got anything, it's out of 2,000. Even if you launch and you get like 50, 60 people interacting with it, that's more than 90% of hackathon projects, right? We all have this like, it's the Instagram effect, right? You only see the good parts of everything. Oh, this project did this and they raised this much. Do you see the silent failures? Like, guys, before we took the Colosseum money, Adam had a look through every single Colosseum project, like the placing, the honorable, everything. And like we worked out the hit rate that like maybe 2 in 10 projects go on to actually post winning, right? They've won, they've got mentioned, they've got some funding. They actually get to a product or show success. And even if they do, how many of those continue? Because don't forget, VCs, they only need one, right? If you look at all the hackathons from Colosseum and what they've deployed, they're probably like a 10x just on all, because you've got one really good one. So there's the context. Sometimes it's a cluttered space, it's too many people. It's also why these local ones are so important, right? Superteam Brazil or your local super team will have people that you can talk to and actually get feedback. And they can help you with Colosseum. It might not be your turn this time, but with us, if I hadn't done Superteam UK, we probably would have shut down. We wouldn't have had somewhere to test ideas or talk or meet more people. And that's a gradual evolution. So, yeah, I hope that kind of covers the question.
Thank you, Bill.
No, welcome.
Amazing.
Please.
I think you mentioned something that it's quite important. Like Arthur here from Cloak and all the boys from Cloak can say that it's super important to get to know people. I remember last year after Tape Drive won the hackathon, we're having a global sync from Super Teams on Wednesday, and he went there to show what was going on with Tape Drive. And after presenting all the project, people were asking him like, if you could say like what was the thing that made a difference in order to achieve this win, and he didn't hesitated, like not even for a second. He said, okay, it's when 2 weeks before the Colosseum finished, I went to the Colosseum office and stayed 2 weeks with the guys, got feedback, started to knowing people started to know that I'm real, that what I'm developing is real, because in the end, people are putting 250K in your hand. They'll probably not do that if they don't know who you are, or if at least someone need to vouch for you, like a super team or a big name. Like, it's hard to get there without anyone ever mentioning you or ever like getting to know you. So I think like joining super teams like you did, like and getting closer surely helps. Like, it's not what you guys did not win because of that. Cloak did not win because of that, but that helped,
So the first thing I would say is you don't need to know the Colosseum people or go to the office to win. Like, I had never talked to any of the founding Colosseum people before we won Grand Champion. Like, even when we came third with the honorable mention, we got the prize, right? I didn't talk to them. We did it through some sub, right? So like, we won, but there was no, oh guys, nice to talk, congrats. Like, it was just fill in the forms and done. Good luck, keep on going. So don't think that like, oh my God, I can't win. They do value it on merit. What I will say though, having a vouch, it's not essential, but if you don't have it, there needs to be a reason why, right? So what I mean with that is the only way you could probably get away without having someone vouch for you that they know, and that could be me, that could be Arthur, that could be the super team guys. It could be a random VC that you met at Breakpoint, right? Just we know the guy, like, or person, we've met them, we've seen the tech. Sorry, I forgot what the...
That you don't need to know.
If you completely new, Like, this is your first time picking up Solana. You've got no background. You've just you've seen the hackathon. Maybe you've seen it, like Superteam UK has been running like marketing about enter the hackathon to students. Maybe it's your first hackathon as a student and it's the first time you work with Solana, right? Then it makes sense that you don't have a vouch. But what you would have is someone from Superteam Brazil going, oh yeah, the guy showed up like 3 weeks ago and we can see the MVP. I say guy, I'm sorry, it's mostly guys I can see on there, it's just vernacular. But it is everyone can win. And we've seen a lot of great products run by women and built by women as well. So, yeah.
Kawhi has one question, the last question for you, Bill.
So, Bill, I think people here listening to you, they don't actually gauge how technical you really are. So what is like your advice to very, very technical founders that might not have this, the human side that you have about communication skills? Because I know you now. I don't know you 2 years ago. Okay, a good co-founder.
So my thing is, if you're a solo founder and you're great technically, yes, you can build a product, but a product is not a business, right? Me and Adam had this discussion. I've heard from my own parents said this to me, right? They went to me, why does your co-founder own some of the company? You make the product. Great. I make the best hardware wallet, right? If no one knows about it and I can't sell it, it doesn't matter. It's that simple, right? So if you're super technical and you have to know where your weak points are, right? I'm a really bad texter. Like, I can get on a call, we'll have a great time, and we might not text. Like, Arthur knows, I'll just, every round and then he might get text about this, and that's it, I don't reply, I'm not active in group chats. You want a call, though, I'll happily stay on, like, you've got questions, I'll do another half an hour, happily. You want to roast, fine. I'm really good on calls and personable, but keeping up with emails, replying to people, and it's not just replying, it's doing it timely, and it's doing it correctly. Because when you write texts, people don't know your tone. They don't see if you're smiling when you say something, right? Finding someone that can handle that, whether it's a co-founder or an employee, you have to. And again, we're completely not mentioning legal, accounting, all the other annoying things that come with running a business, right? Customer complaints, right? Great, cracked PhD. Bro, I'm sitting replying to emails. You get me? I'm good at that because I know how to reply to them. But I don't want to deal with 300 Telegram messages a day. And that's how many I get. I wake up every day, I mark as read, I read through them, I don't reply. Adam talks to the people, and there's no point having multiple people coming in and like confusing the conversation. When needed, I'm in. Like, same thing with calls. Calls booked, you never miss it. So find where you think you're weak and try and find someone that overlaps. And then the other thing for technical people, this is heartbreaking to say, no one cares how hard the tech is. No one. Maybe the other devs will come to San Francisco, me, Arthur, and we'll nerdgasm out over your C and how you've done this and how you solve this and this. But your average consumer, bro, do you think our customers care that I wrote the app in Rust? Like, that I've written an iOS app in Rust? No one cares. They just want to see, oh, is it on iPhone? Arthur knows, I spent 2 weeks writing FFI Kotlin handlers for the Solana Seeker seed vote for cross-program invocation or some shit, right? Kotlin, like, having to, bruv, no. Adam doesn't care. He just goes, Bill, we need seed vote to work for the demo. That's what the customer cares about, right? They don't care if I did it Rust or Swift or Bash or whatever. They want it to look good and work. So detaching yourself from that is really important. And that's it. It hurts to say it because when you're technical, you've come from this like background of university or wherever, where all we care about is the work. Companies are different.
Thank you so much. That makes a lot of sense. And just kind of adding on to that, how much does clankers and AI in general, how far can it get you? Like you saw how it is before AI, how it is now. How do you advise people to actually use it?
Oh, bro, right. So my first thing is, if you're building an AI wrapper, my personal opinion, and it could be wrong, is pivot. So if you're building anything that's like, take Lovable, right? Just the easiest example. Lovable, when it started, was using the ChatGPT or whatever it is to wrap around and make your UI UX and make it look nice, right? So what happened? Claude and Anthropic saw that people were using it and went, oh, we'll just make our own. Any product that gets traction that is simply a wrapper around AI will get eaten alive by the labs, right? If it gets big enough. So look at OpenClaw, right? Again, up and down. It's like a crypto pump and dump. I got acquired by OpenAI though. He made his bag, right? So that's what I'm saying. Identify what you're doing and see where that is. Now, aside from that, AI should enable you to do things that you couldn't before. So like our company, I could not do this 10 years ago, right? It's what I said to you. We need 10 or 15 engineers across different skill sets. The app on its own would be its own company. The hardware would be its own company. Like there's a reason Ledger made great hardware, but shit software. Same thing, like all these companies have this debt from being so big or back in the day when they hired. And the more people you have, the harder it is to organize, the harder it is to be efficient. And then you have these scale problems. And then you throw in AI, which is not a panacea, right? It's good. But can you imagine managing 5 or 6 engineers all using AI trying to do the same thing? You'd end up with like this slop of code. It'd be so hard to manage. So where I found the edge is AI for me on something that I know I want to do. I'm one person. I don't do the multi-agent, 18 hours a day, Claude on phone. I still code roughly like I used to do. And I think my advice, at least how I approach it, is okay, how would I approach this if I was coding it manually, right? So let's take a reverse engineering setup, which is like one of the holy grails of programming, right? It's one of the hardest things you could do. So my job is to reverse engineer this Tropic firmware. Okay, first let's aggregate all the documentation, PDFs, etc. I might not read them, but I want them in context because I would use them. Right, let's find all their existing code, put that in as well. Right, let's try and get some signals from something that I have working or a prototype that they've given. Throw that in as well. Right, let's define the problem there. Done. This is focus work, right? I'm not just replying yeet it or skip permissions. I am thinking about this and I'm talking like on the mic and writing out like what I'm approaching to it. I will then do a pass. I will actually read what it says about implementing it. And then I will start going to that loose flow prompt of setting up this feedback loop of, right, it's plugged in, flash the firmware, run it, get the error, do it again. And then I let it cycle while I work on something else. I found it exhausting now with AI to work on things because it's so mentally draining. I have to be on there and I have 2 projects at the same time, so I'm context switching between the 2, and I have to be on the ball. Yes, they write code better than me, but I still need to know how I want it to be written. So, like, I don't use Claude as well. I am very opinionated on this. Claude eats tokens and does a lot of performance programming. Let's put README in. Let's do this. No, I have a very specific way of doing things, and that is where I think like the difference is. AI though is your massive enabler. It lets you take on challenges that 5-6 years ago you wouldn't even think. Like my whole thing is we went from back in the day you had an idea to code it, you would need maybe a week or 2. So like you've got a new data processing idea to like do some quant stuff. 2 weeks of work finding new data source. With AI now it's 3 hours. So apply that to a startup. What maybe would have taken us 10 years ago, 5 or 6 years to build, I can now build in a year. Again, high capacity, I'm willing to learn, so forth. And I have certain skill sets so I can learn. But I learned electronics from just AI. Genuinely, like I wouldn't go to university anymore. I would self-teach myself what I want to do. And there's so much stuff online now. YouTube is literally the easiest way to save money when it comes to hardware. Because there will probably be someone out there that had the same stupid idea as you, tried it, and you can see what they did. YouTube is a cheat code. It's also the biggest gap between choice, right? On the same platform, you can learn anything you want. So there's a San Francisco startup that makes chips, and you can follow the guy over 5 years in his garage, going from making like chips to now being $1 billion company that makes chips properly. On the same platform, though, you can go watch shorts and rot your brain. So it's what we choose.
Yeah, good. Good thing I'm not going crazy. I think after Boris from Cloud Code tweeted that he does like 30 sessions at the same time, I was like, how do you even review that? Because that's the real bottleneck, right? You cannot just let it rip. Otherwise, you're cooked.
So one thing I have found where you can let it rip, and this is what I say, I set everything up and I pay attention. And then there's a certain point where all I'm doing is just yes, yes, yes. If you set the feedback loop up and you can define the target correctly, then you can let it rip. So with, 5.4 extra high, over the weekend I was like, right, let's write a simulation engine. Trying to just write a simulation engine doesn't work, but simply changing it to write me a simulation engine and then benchmark it and create against this known outcome. So I want a laminar flow, like certain things that I know the answer to. That then means I can just let it rip because it knows that if it can't meet this known result, the code's wrong. So it spends 16 hours in a loop, and then I get working code that then I can sit, read, and check. But I am 100% certain at this point AI writes code better than 99.9% of people. So if you're not using it, you are at a handicap.
Agreed, 100%. And like you said, you can also use it as a mentor, which is super valuable. And even in terms of language too, right? You can learn English while also learning a concept that's Solana specific or programming specific. Super cool. Anyone has a question? Can go, bro. Can come here.
Hi, Bill. Nice to meet you. My name is Marshall, and I would like to know your vision for the 5 years from now to how AI and all those agents on the internet are going to float, and how do you look to those projects about proof of humanity and so.
Okay. Thank you for the question, Marshall, and for listening. So my opinion is, first of all, agents are not good for financial decisions, right? I still don't understand how companies raise millions of dollars for an AI agent-powered investing platform and so forth. It doesn't work. There's one reason, just incentive-based, it doesn't work. If you have an agent that is profitable, why would you sell it as a product, right? Same question, if you have a great trading strategy and the bot prints, why would you sell the bot? Leverage is cheap, you can print infinite money if your edge is real, okay? Hence why we see all these pitchfork and shovel people, which are Telegram bots, right? We just let you trade. We give you the infrastructure. So that's the technical part of it, that like the agentic AI for finance is dead. Like I just don't see a future for it. And if everyone has the same AI, then no one has an edge, so forth. Then on the flip side, again, AI is amazing, but also it's not PhD level intelligence. So I had a Meteora bot, 3-4 weeks running, fine in production. Again, I really enjoy Meteora. A lot of primitives there that you could go after, revenue users. If you're looking for projects, it's a good way to go for it. Worth looking at. But anyways, so ChatGPT 5.4, multiple weeks of running the code, testing it, etc. Back like safety things, etc. It lost the whole portfolio in 3 minutes because a coin rugged, right? And the whole point of the prompting was to put in these fail safes, etc., and it didn't catch it. So when you have AI code that is not there, right, and doesn't have the human element, how are you going to trust it with large amounts of money, right? They leave bugs in, they call the wrong things. At this point, and at least as it grows, that's where I see the problem being. The other thing is, people in general, aside from our little bubble, don't like AI. I was at the Rust conference in London, like the Rust conference, like meant to be, again, very furries. It was all, everything. When I say Rust conference, it's what you expect. Jonas from Solana asked, how many of you use AI? I think there was one hand out of 40 that went up. And then on the flip side, aside from just the devs, when was the last time you had a customer service bot with AI that you were happy with? Like, your reaction when you get customer service with AI is, oh my God, not again. Give me a human, right? So AI, and I think this automation is amazing for certain aspects, but not for everything. Flip that, again, you heard me on the chatbot, compare that to Waymo, right? I tried my first Waymo this year. I love Waymo, better than everything else. Don't have to deal with the taxi driver, don't have the awkward chat. It solves every problem. So like over the 5 years, I think what we end up is this separation, right? Where hopefully people understand that AI is good at very specific things and it might be bad at other things. I think at some point we will hit a bottleneck of sorts, right? We are coming up against energy limits. There is no more fresh data to be scraped from the internet. Like, the labs are pretty clear that they've scraped everything possible. The next big barrier, I think, is robotics and AI, but robotics are still developing. I think in 5 years, what we'll see is AI and robotics will kind of govern areas where people aren't the best option, right? Driving, agriculture, safety inspections, hard jobs that are worth replacing. Again, do you think, like, as a customer, what's better, ringing a business and getting a nice perky secretary, or someone who really knows his stuff? And we've all had that experience, right? You ring someone, you get really good customer service and you walk out feeling better. Or do you want an AI to answer the phone? You already know the answer to that, right? So I think we get to this separation because at this moment we're being sold this vision that AI will do everything. No, it will do some things really well and just ramp up productivity. Again, I might be wrong. 5 years is a long time, right? 5 years ago, we don't think we had a working AI. So depends whose scaling laws you look at and what you think goes. Yeah.
Amazing.
Any more? Kobe?
I think we have one last. I have one last question for you, Bill, and then if you have any final consideration, you can take from there. But I think, as I said in the beginning, most of people I've met during the last 2 to 3 years in Solana, they were building softwares. You were actually the first one that were building a hardware that I saw, like, okay, those guys, they're different. Like, they're going to make it. I don't know how, I don't know when, but they're going to make it. Like, good product, a good team. Solana needs it. Solana will embrace it. If you could share any tip for those guys, for the hardware guys that are watching us, people that are thinking about developing something to Solana, focusing on the hardware guys, like, what would you say? Like, what's your what's the Papa's vision for them?
So hardware is a bit of an interesting one, right? So a really nice like combo of buzzwords is like robotics and crypto. The annoying thing is that there isn't really any overlap, right? Like any real functionality that you benefit between like merging the two. We've seen most hardware is kind of specialized around crypto. So like we've seen like the vape pens that let you trade, hardware wallets, maybe a miner or something, or a computer like with Dawn, standalone devices like with the gaming. I still think hardware in general is, and what we saw with the product is, at least its first iteration was, if it looks cool, people are interested, right? And hardware does give you a moat. When I say a moat, you can't, right, just slight tangent. So one of the things that has a lot of buzz is like the agentic organization platforms. And there's like StarCraft that released this nice UI for it and you can move them around. I copied the idea in 12 hours of prompting on the side, like on a second monitor. So my argument there is, okay, how much of a moat can you build just on software? Hardware lets you kind of escape that. And in our case, like Jobs, Adam keeps saying this, and I do agree with him. Steve Jobs said, like, for good software, you need your own hardware. And like, I realized that after coding on the iPhone, right? The iPhone, it runs so well because they lock everything down at the hardware level, right? It's the Android doesn't do that, but iOS does. And that's why they do so much better. So it lets you have this like combination of two, hardware and software. Again, with this new model that we've got, like coming out with the screen and clear signing and everything, we are probably like, it will end up being open source, and that gives you a building block for everything you need. One of the things mentioned on the previous question I didn't touch was the proof of humanity, and I do apologize for not touching on that. We talked with Tropic about this. I think there's something in the future to do with hardware and verifying humans cryptographically. That seems to be the next hardware hurdle. So, like, we have the Rust firmware for it with Solana in. I think identity, security, those are things that are interesting. And then the other one is data sharing through automation with robots. So, yes, robotics directly might not have like a seamless fit with like blockchain, but the data is valuable, right? And you can share that or sell that on chain. So one of the issues we have, right, I've got another 750 hardware wallets to assemble. So we finished 250, did those for SPI, hand done and everything. And then downstairs, I've got a robotic arm that's going to do the assembly. The training data, though, is valuable, right? So what I will do is record the training data, and then that is a valuable data set for someone that wants to train a smaller robotic arm or a 3D printed one, or just out there to benchmark or train. Sorry. So there are different ways to skin a cat, right? Like a really good example I mentioned is Synthesis, one of our cohort teams. They came in being a prediction markets terminal. Like after seeing it, they're now looking to maybe become a data provider, and they have like signed letters of intent from like Wall Street firms who just want an API for prediction market data and historical data, right? It's not fancy or sexy, it's data, but pays the bills and it has interest and it will always have customers. So look at the alternative ways of what you can get. Again, we've seen hardware lets you play around a bit, right? So one of the other teams, they didn't get Accelerator, but Natalie, I think she's in Founders Inc. So Natalie is doing Playpen. So it's like a little robotic pet. Okay. Again, it's not flashy, it's not deep tech, it's not super technical, but it's a fun product. And if done correctly, there's no reason it couldn't work, right? Like a crypto
Completely. No, I have. I would love to connect you with Luca. We had last year in the last hackathon, one of the Brazilian teams shortlisted. It was about a project that was launching a marketplace for AI data. Something still really unexplored. The guy is arriving here at the garage actually tomorrow. He's 18 now. I think now he's 19. But he decided not to go to university because he had this project, this idea with him. We started helping him. 3 weeks after we started, he already got 2 co-founders for him. One was a guy that worked for NVIDIA.
I lost you there, sadly. Just after NVIDIA cut out. No audio, sadly. Same as before, I think. The microphone gets tired and asks for a break every now and then from the looks of it. If anyone building wants to talk about their project, have it reviewed or anything, I'm more than happy to help. Like, you can get my Telegram, send me a pitch deck or a GitHub. Yep, you're back.
Desliga essa caixa aí, eu vou falar com ele daqui.
Bom dia, my very poor Portuguese.
So, I will speak with you directly from my PC here. I think you hear me now.
Yeah.
So I would love to introduce you to Luca. He's an amazing
young guy, young developer, dropped university to take this project to the next level. We are supporting him with everything that we can. And he just closed his first deal with NVIDIA to start. And that was something really new for me, to be honest with you. When he shared the project last September, I told him, Luca, I think this is amazing, but I don't know shit. I'll try to. I'll look to it. I'll start connecting with people to try to understand how can I help you, who I can connect you with. And he's a super talent, already shortlisted, like in his first try, 18 years, solo founder. But he told me something that I didn't know, that it's so hard to buy this data from robots that usually companies, instead of buying the data, they need to buy the whole company that has the data in order to have it. It's so complex and it's so hard to find those marketplaces and those deals. And that's why he wanted to bring this on chain, so it would be easier for people to trust the process and trust this, the system. And it got me like, okay, I'll start looking, and that's when I started studying with him. And if you allow me, I would love to connect him
Please.
to you, to share, and maybe sometime make a call with you to have some feedback. I would love him to show you
anyone else as well entering. If you have people that want to just talk product or something, I'm more than happy to send me links and things. I'm happy to do a loom for them and give them some feedback on the idea or in general.
Perfect. So if you guys, I think you guys, yeah, you can. No, it's not. Yeah, can I finish here? Okay, so I think for us it was more than a pleasure. It was something really special for us to have you here, share all your knowledge. We're big fans from Unruggable. Whatever you guys need from Latin America, count on us. Please shoot us whenever you guys start shipping to here, want to start marketing here. We will be more than happy to help you and show everyone what's Unruggable doing. And thank you, Bill.
Thank you. No, thank you, everyone. I'm looking forward to shipping to Brazil. We're going to start, hopefully, 1st of May, start shipping out orders. And with San Francisco, part of me wants to take a little D2 through Rio to ship the Brazilian orders. So, hopefully. But yeah, thank you for listening to me ramble. Appreciate everyone. Dev units are available, and we have our prototype. So this is the production one, secure elements, screen for clear signing, which we're moving into production. So dev units heading out, production for Breakpoint, hopefully. And if I can help in any way, at me at Twitter, find me on Telegram from the guys. If you're entering Coliseum and want someone to look at your product, pitch, whatever it is, Telegram or Twitter, more than happy to. And good luck with it. And San Francisco is great, and I really hope we get a team out from Brazil. Got to keep it going with Arthur as well. Every Coliseum, guys. Come on.
Thank you for everything you did for us. The best luck for Unruggable, and whatever you guys need, just shoot us. Thanks, Arthur, for making the connection and helping us to brought you here. My pleasure, Bill. Thank you.
Stay safe, guys. Good building. Adios. Bom dia.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, my friend.
Stay safe, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.